My mom bought me this t-shirt for my birthday, and a company in Germany suggested that growing a mustache would make a great stretch goal. That's it. That's the intro. Let's talk about Modern. New Capenna, a massive, soaring cityscape in the style of the Roaring '20s, complete with Art Deco architecture, demon gangsters, and a mysterious substance known as Halo, which is definitely not alcohol or drugs. No. It's just a liquid, crystal, or vapor substance with magical qualities that make you feel powerful. That's made out of angels, the bodies of angels ground up into dust. Yeah, nothing drug-like about that. So this newest Magic set takes place in a city built by angels, but is now ruled by the demon crime families who overthrew and imprisoned the angels in a kind of stasis designed to convert their bodies into magic fuel. And since all the angels of New Capenna have been locked away in stasis, that's why there are no new angels in this set. Except for this one. And this one. And this one. And all of these. But besides that, no angels. Okay, so there's a few angels, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. But there was Dragon on Innistrad, and that doesn't make any sense. You don't hear anyone complaining about that. Actually, I did complain about that at the time, but never you mind. You know what else is on New Capenna? Modern cards. No, really, there's about 5 of them, as well as an honorable mention. Presented here are the top 5 new cards from New Capenna likely to have an impact in the Modern format. But before we even hit that, we've got an honorable mention. Rocco, Cabaretti Caterer. For a red, a green, and a white mana, plus as much mana of any colors you'd like to pay, you get a 3/1 elf druid that brings with it a creature with mana value equal to that extra mana you paid. While Rocco is unlikely to tutor for anything as large as a Primeval Titan in Modern, it's pretty easy to imagine him searching up a Ragavan for just 1 extra mana. But here's the best part. You can also cast Rocco for X equaling 0 and get yourself a Dryad Arbor. Or even more exciting, Asmeranda Candidacular Blagic, you know the card. Just 3 mana for 6 power and a bonus Underworld Cookbook added to your hand? That is not a bad deal at all. And since Rocco is a caterer and Asmo, the Underworld Cookbook writer, is a chef, the two of them showing up to the party together is something of a flavor win. Do you get it? Flavor win. Caterer, chef, flavor. You get it. Coming in at number 5 is a card that actually made the top of my commander list, and that's Vivien on the Hunt. 4 generic and 2 green mana for 4 loyalty Planeswalker, Vivien's +2 ability is one that we care about in Modern the most. That's because it's Birthing Pod. Birthing Pod, a card banned in Modern, well, now it's just the +2 ability of a Planeswalker. This ability, for those of you who are under 30, allows you to sacrifice a creature to search your library for another creature with 1 greater mana value than the sacrificed creature. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A 6 mana Planeswalker? In this economy? Well, here's the thing about Vivien in Modern. You don't need to cast her for 6 mana. Enter Planebound Accomplice. The Planeswalker sneak attack from the original Modern Horizons set. Oh wow, Modern Horizons cards seeing play in Modern, what a surprise. The Accomplice hasn't had much of a home in Modern up to this point, but that could all change with the release of the Streets of New Capenna. If you have a Planebound Accomplice in play and Vivien on the Hunt in your hand, you can win the game with just a single red mana. Don't believe me? Watch this. First, activate the Accomplice and cheat Vivien into play. Vivien will die in your end step, but don't worry, the game will end before then. Next, activate Vivien's +2 ability to sacrifice the Accomplice. After all, he served his purpose, and put a Felidar Guardian into play from your deck. Felidar Guardian then flickers Vivien, allowing you to activate Vivien's +2 ability again to sacrifice your cat and search up a Karmic Guide from your library. Karmic Guide returns Felidar to the battlefield, which again flickers Vivien. Then Vivien again sacrifices the cat, this time tutoring for Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker. Activate Kiki to copy Karmic Guide, returning Felidar Guardian back to the battlefield, battlefield. This time, your Felidar will flicker Kiki, who will then copy Felidar, who will then flicker Kiki, who will then copy Felidar, who will then, well, you get the idea. What? You say this convo is too convoluted? Well, I say you aren't trying hard enough. Birthing Pod on a Planeswalker brings back a Splinter Twin-like effect. I think. Kind of. It's just number 5. Coming in at number 4 is Shadow of Mortality. This tall, shadowy drink of water might remind you of another popular shadow in Modern, Death's Shadow. And it makes sense. One's a 13/13, the other has a 13 in the mana cost. And instead of growing in power and toughness as your life total decreases, Shadow of Mortality simply gets cheaper as you get closer to death. But Professor, you might be asking at your computer screen, which I can't answer you towards, Shadow of Mortality is just much worse than Death's Shadow in the Death's Shadow's deck. And to that I say, well, yes, you're correct. But Shadow of Mortality won't be played in Death's Shadow decks. Instead, you'll be seeing Shadow of Mortality in a little deck that's been hanging out on the fringes of the Modern format since Modern Horizons 2 arrived. A deck known as Calibrated Blast Combo. This quirky deck is made up of 4 Calibrated Blast, 2 throws of Chaos that always find your Calibrated Blast, a pile of the highest mana value cards in Modern, and 40, count 'em, 40 lands. Shadow of Mortality is perfect for this deck, serving as both a massive hit off your Calibrated Blast and as a card you can actually cast to finish the job if your opponent is sticking around at 5 life after a single hit off the blast. Number 3 on this list is actually 2 cards, and there's one reason for that. Riveters Charm and Obscura Charm are the only 2 of the 5 cards from the new Charm cycle that will actually see play in Modern. You see, most of the rest of the charms are too expensive for the effects they offer, but the Obscura and Riveters Charms are a different story. All 3 of Obscura Charm's modes are useful at different points in the game. Countering an instant or sorcery on the stack and destroying the threat on your opponent's board are both reasonable, albeit somewhat clunky, ways to spend 3 mana. But the real draw to Obscura Charm is the final ability. Imagine your opponent has spent their past couple of turns attacking down your Teferi Time Reveler, finally managing to get it off the battlefield. No problem, because on their end step, you just cast Obscura Charm, returning Teferi back from the grave. Nail, meat, coffin. You know what'll really be fun is whenever your opponent destroys your Teferi with an Obscura Charm of their own. Because you know what they say, the only thing that can stop a bad guy with an Obscura Charm is a good guy with an Obscura Charm. Are you the good guy or the bad guy if you're running Teferi? Now, if I did have to pick which one of these 2 charms is better than the other, I'd say Riveter's Charm is even better than Obscura. The graveyard hate side is decent, but not spectacular. 3 mana, after all, is a lot to spend on exiling an opponent's graveyard. Where the card really shines, though, is the other 2 modes. Having the choice to spend 3 mana on a Soul Shatter, or effectively drawing 3 cards, are both appropriate costs for the effect you're getting. Most of the time, charms offer modes that are underpowered for the amount of mana you're paying, since the flexibility theoretically makes up for the inefficiency. But with Riveter's Charm, you're getting both a high degree of flexibility and a powerful effect. Jund players rejoice, WotC smiles upon you from high this day. So what are the 2 most powerful cards from New Capenna for Modern? Well, have you ever wished you could attack with your Liliana of the Veil? Thanks to number 2 on our list, now you can. Luxier, or Luxier, is it Luxier or Luxier? Well, whatever it is, it's a legendary Halo-infused sword, wielded by Elspeth in the streets of New Capenna's story. The one you didn't read. It's also the first equipment in Magic's history with Equip Planeswalker. What could possibly go wrong? The most obvious use with Luxier in Modern is to equip it to your Planeswalker and attack for a lot of damage. And that's certainly a reasonable use for the card. A deck like Azorius Hammertime or Jund Saga can tutor up Luxier off of the 3rd chapter of Urza's Saga and immediately equip the sword to Teferi, Time Reveler, or Renin 6. But the biggest reason to get excited about Luxier is an entirely different purpose. Devoted Druid. A combo piece beloved by modern players for years. Devoted Druid taps for green mana and has the rather unique ability to untap itself at the cost of placing a -1/-1 counter on her. So what happens when you use Devoted Druid's untap ability while it's equipped with Luxier? It's simple. For each -1/-1 counter on Devoted Druid, the Druid gets +1/+1. If I've done my math correctly, and I have because someone else wrote this part of the script for me, that means that for every activation of an equipped Devoted Druid's untap ability, Devoted Druid gets -0/-0, meaning there's no limit to the number of times you can untap your Devoted Druid. Now that's what we call in this business a combo effect. You can use this combo to generate infinite green mana to cast, well, whatever you like, provided whatever it is only requires green or generic mana. How about a large Finale of Devastation, or a massive Walking Ballista? Or, if you prefer, you can add a third equipment to the combo, Viridian Longbow, to ping your opponent for a whole lot of damage. Do be careful to note that equipping Luxier to a creature that isn't a Planeswalker will cost you 3 mana. Be sure that when you go to activate the equip ability that you're not about to get blown out by a lightning bolt or some other removal spell. So what is the most impactful card for Modern from New Capenna? Well, we here at Tolarian Community College have always strived for honesty, even when that honesty is incredibly predictable and boring. So, coming in at number 1, by far the most impactful card cycle from New Capenna will be the new Triomes. What's that? They're not called Triomes? Then what are they called? Oh, of course. Garden Headquarters Tower Proving Ground Lounges. Silly me. Call them what you will, but these cards are the completion of the Triumph cycle introduced in Ikuria. You may remember Ikuria as the completely forgettable set once companions were taken out of the equation. Well, New Capenna proudly stands alongside it here. Each land taps for 3 colors of mana, and while they do enter the battlefield tapped, you can also cycle them later in the game, replacing them with a fresh card at the cost of 3 mana. Most importantly, however, these lands come with 3 basic land types each, meaning you can tutor for them with your fetch lands. Alright, I know I don't need to sell you on the value of these lands. Triomes have been staples of Modern ever since they were first printed, and finally, the cycle is complete. For the past 2 years, most 3-color Modern decks have had to be built within the color combinations found in Khans or Ikuria wedges in order to make the most of the Triomes available. But now, every 3-color deck can have access to the smooth mana these lands provide. Want to play Esper Control? Well, there's a Triome for that. Sorry, Tower. Are you a Classic Jund player? Well, there's a Triome for that. Sorry, a Proving Ground for that. We may even see the 4-color Yorion Blink deck, which already played 2 Triomes, add a 3rd or even 4th one of these 3-color lands now that it has access to the red, green, white, and green, white, blue colors. But now I want to mustache you a question. Which new card did I miss that you're excited to try out in your Modern deck? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, whether you are playing Modern, Pioneer, Stain, Dared, Commander, Pauper, or any number of the myriad ways to enjoy this great game, when it is possible, if it is reasonable to do so, try and spend your money where you spend that time playing, and that's at your local game store. You're supporting your Magic the Gathering community when you do. The same community that voted to have me grow this mustache. Thank you for the t-shirt, Mom. Wow, look at how cheap fetch lands are getting. I could really use a bunch for all my Simic Commander decks.
Well, then get a box of Modern Horizons too.
But that's $275. A playset of Misty Rainforests is $120.
But the box could have a ton of fetch lands in it, and if you crack all the fetch lands you need and sell everything else from the box, it's like you didn't even pay for them.
Yeah, but...
It's like you didn't even pay for them.
Need anything?
I'll take a box. So how many did you get?
2. 2, an arid mesa and a marsh flats.
Well, you can trade those 2 in for a misty rainforest.
I need 4 misty rainforests.
Better buy another box.